Not the best look that I've ever had, but it's gonna have to do. I made a TikTok asking my mom a few LGBT and lesbian terms, and in the comments there were quite a few people asking what these terms meant. I guess a lot of people still don't know these terms. I thought it would be maybe helpful to just talk about some of these terms, share what they mean, so that if you are new in the community or if you just didn't know some of these terms, you know them. I went onto a website called wearefamilycharleston.org, and I found a list of LGBT and queer terms. So these are terms that you should know if you are queer. The first one is ally, and an ally is basically someone who might not actually be part of the LGBT community, but is still there supporting LGBT rights, and they're an activist in supporting our rights. This could be your mom, your dad, your sister, your friend, somebody who's not a queer, but is going to be there to support and advocate for you. Androgynous is someone who presents themselves as neither feminine or masculine, and it's just mostly based on appearance, but you can also probably have like an androgynous kind of sexuality, but we'll kind of get into that. But for the most part, androgynous is just very physical of what you present yourself to look like and how you dress. And anybody can dress androgynous. Asexual is someone who generally doesn't have sexual attraction or desires. A lot of these terms are on a scale or spectrum, however you want to call it, but you can fall somewhere in between a lot of these terms. So don't hold yourself to labels if you don't want to. Biphobia is the fear or hatred of bisexual people. And if you don't know what bi is or bisexual, it is when you are attracted to two genders. It also kind of can intertwine with the word pansexual. Pansexual is when you are attracted to a person not based on their gender or body parts, but more on the soul or who that person is. And you might be attracted to a bunch of different types of people and not just a female or male. But sometimes people use bisexual and they're kind of meaning the same thing as pansexual and vice versa. But for the most part, bisexual does mean you're attracted to two genders. That's why it's bi. And most of the time it is male and female genders. But again, everything's on a spectrum and on a scale, and a lot of these terms can kind of intertwine with others. The next one is cisgender, and that is a person who fits the gender assigned at birth. So I am a cisgendered female. I feel like I fit the body that I was born into and the body parts that I have. The next one is gay, and I'm also going to go with queer. Gay and queer are kind of umbrella terms. They can be used for people in the LGBT community. Obviously, they're slightly different. Queer just means that you are part of the LGBT community, so you can use that for basically anybody, a lesbian, a bisexual, a pansexual person, a person who's transgender. You can all use the word queer. Whereas if you're gay, gay is basically saying that you like the same sex. Let's say you were a female to male transgender person and you were straight, you wouldn't use the word gay, but you could still use the word queer. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. Next one is gender expression. This refers to how you express yourself visually and how you dress, maybe how your haircut is. It's gender expression, and it doesn't mean that it is your gender. So if I dress a little bit more masculine, that is just my gender expression, and it doesn't mean that I am a male or that I'm transgender. It doesn't mean that, but you can express yourself however you want. Gender identity is more inside of you, who you are, and not just how you express yourself physically. Gender neutral is when you don't feel like you fit in any sort of gender. It's kind of just the middle maybe, and it's different for everybody. You might be agender, gender neutral, there's so many other terms, but basically that kind of falls in between. You might feel like one gender one day, one gender another day, or you might not feel ever feeling like you fit into a specific gender, or you might feel like both. There's so many different ways to interpret this life, and so those terms kind of fit in between. Gender nonconforming is when your gender characteristics kind of don't fit the normal stereotypes of what each gender is. Gender role is basically just a societal expectation on who you should be, and you don't have to have a gender role. A lot of the times in lesbian relationships, someone's like, oh, who's the man? Or in gay relationships, oh, who's the girl? Who's the bottom? Who's the top? And this is definitely a societal thing. You don't need to fit into this box at all, but it's a term that can be used. The next one is gold star, which is very controversial these days. A gold star is basically a lesbian who has not had sex with a penis. I'll just put it that way. It is controversial because it definitely degrades the fact that some people are bisexual. Gold star is kind of a term that a lot of lesbians use as feeling superior to other people who have had sex with a penis. Everyone explores sexuality different, and personally, I am not a gold star, as you know, and I have had to have my experiences to figure out my sexuality, so I don't think I'm less than anybody who hasn't had sex with a penis. So it's definitely a controversial word right now. Heterosexual, obviously, is somebody who is straight. Homosexual is someone who is gay or queer. Homophobia is the fear of lesbians and gay people or bisexual people. Okay, the next one is kind of difficult to dive into because I personally don't know a lot about it, but intersex is a word to describe somebody who was born with both male and female parts or characteristics. I'm not going to go any more into that because I definitely don't want to say anything that's wrong. But yeah, that's what that is. And another word that some people might use for this, which is completely outdated and wrong, would be a hermaphrodite, which is definitely offensive and you should not use it. But if that helps you understand what intersex is, then that's why I'm putting it out there.
Sister?
Hi! Oh, you went on a run this morning.
Yeah.
You actually did.
Yeah.
I did not know you were going to do that.
I did it. So we're going to do it again, and we're training for the turkey trot.
What the flip?
I'm going to be a turkey trotter.
Oh my shiz. Holy shit. All right, next term obviously is a lesbian, and that is somebody who dates, that is a female who dates females. LGBTQIA is the acronym for lesbian, gay, gender neutral, gender queer, bisexual, transgender, questioning queer, intersex, and allies, or asexuals. Or androgynous. It's basically anybody and everybody who doesn't fit into the normal gender roles and has different sexualities or different gender. You know what that means, right? Okay, we get that one. Obviously, I said what a lesbian was, but and I said what pansexual and bisexual were. And then I think I went over what gay was, but gay is definitely an umbrella term, but most gay men would use just the regular word gay. Okay, the next one is outing. It's basically publicly declaring or revealing somebody's sexuality or gender. It's definitely wrong, so do not out anybody. Questioning is when somebody is considering or exploring their sexuality or gender. And this needs to be more recognized and accepted in the community. There's a time for all of us where we are confused, wondering where we fit in our sexuality and gender roles. So it's definitely something we need to accept and embrace more into our community. Questioning is totally normal and it's gonna happen, and it happens for all of us. There's always a point where you're confused and wondering, and you have to embrace that for others too. Sexual orientation is basically, we've gone over a lot of the sexual orientations, but it is where you fit in your sexuality. And that includes being a lesbian, being gay, being bisexual, pansexual. Those are all sexual orientations. Sexual preference is also something that I think we should talk about. Sexual preference is obviously your preference, what you are sexually attracted to, but sometimes it doesn't fit our sexual orientation. So I am pansexual. I do find men sometimes attractive and I find females attractive, but my sexual preference is female, which is why I use the word lesbian a lot. On my spectrum of sexuality, in my head, I see straight on one side and gay on one side, and then I see bisexual and pansexual in the middle. I fall between pansexual and lesbian, and I fall closer to the lesbian side of things. So for me, my sexual preference is girls, females, and my sexual orientation is pansexual. So I think we definitely need to talk about that more and be accepting of people that kind of don't fit into the exact box or category that we think that they are in. And another thing we can kind of talk about is what pronouns there are. There are a ton of pronouns, and I'm not going to go through all of them, but the most common ones are obviously he, him, and she, her, and then also they, them, which I think are the most neutral is they, them, if you are unsure about someone's pronouns. And if you are unsure about someone's pronouns, you should definitely ask because there are literally tons. If this video was helpful, please give it a thumbs up and let me know in the comments down below if there's any other terms that you guys feel would be necessary to chat about, or if you have any other topics that you really want to understand better, let me know in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys in this video right here.